Hey guys, welcome to Mindful Conversations with Elia Bean. Thank you so much for being here. I have an amazing guest today. November is the
National
Adoption
Awareness
Month. And This is why we met during a retreat in Utah that is done by Candle in the Light Room and by Desi. And oh my gosh, I met these ladies. I fell in love with these ladies. It was like, these ladies are my sisters, part of my tribe. This is what I stand for. And, just meeting more people like you. And so I am so thankful that you were able to meet here with me and just talk about, your foundation. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your foundation.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on here. So my foundation is Baby Be Brave. It's actually not a foundation yet. It's in the process of it. Right now, it's more of a community page.
Okay.
It's intended for people who are adopted, referred to as adoptees. I am adopted. Mm-hmm. But I also I welcome adoptive parents and birth parents, which is the whole triad. And then I also welcome anyone outside the adoption community to learn about adoption.
As a therapist, of course, I have met people that, are adoptees, and they do deal with this issue of maybe that at some point, because at some point they felt rejected by their biological mother, they were given away. Yeah. So obviously there's always going to be but there's always going to be this trauma behind it, this feeling. What has been your healing journey? Because it is a healing journey that you have to go through once you found out that you were adopted.
So I'm going to give a little backstory just before it. So I was adopted. I was born in Romania. I was put into an orphanage when I was a baby. I lived in an orphanage for the first 2 years of my life. I was then adopted by an American family at 2 years old. And then I found out I was adopted at 8 years old. That honestly that changed my life forever. Hearing those words, "You are adopted," changes everything. I remember sitting in a car with my adoptive father, and after he told me, of course, my first response was, "You mean my mom's not my real mom?" And it sounds horrible, and I didn't mean it to sound that way, but I was 8. I didn't really understand. I felt like kind of everything was a lie, and I was just very confused. I had a lot of questions, and like you said, like I started struggling with, like, was I not good enough? Why didn't she love me? Why didn't she want me? Like, what mother throws away her child? And I went through all those thoughts in my head. Like, there's a lot of struggles with eternal separation, abandonment, attachment, sense of belonging. And I also didn't have any pictures of my birth mother either. So all the time I would stand in front of the mirror when I was a kid, even pretty much into my teenage years. And I would just stare at the mirror, and I would just kind of wonder what my birth parents looked like. And I would create images of them off of, like, my features. So, like, oh, maybe she has, I have his nose or her eyes and all that. So that's all I went off of. But high school, I was not very nice to myself. I pretty much hated myself, and it's a horrible feeling to not love yourself. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a big Italian family. I could have talked to anyone because we have so many relatives, but I always felt so alone despite how many people I had in my life. I felt alone in my head, in my own thoughts, in my own feelings. And I'm like, how could they understand this? Right. If I told them. And then again, that whole term ungrateful comes up too every time I try to, share anything I'm feeling. So in high school, I did a lot of self-harm. I made stupid choices, but it was from what I felt, and I felt abandoned, I felt rejected, I felt unwanted, unloved, and I put myself in relationships with guys that really hurt me in the end, because I had no self-confidence, and I figured, if my own mother didn't want me, who else would?
Mm. Yeah.
So I started a search for my birth mother in high school, the end of high school. Actually, before I was 18, because you legally search when you're 18. But before, I contacted the lawyer who handled my case and brought me over to the United States. And, he told me that he has all the files. He's like, I have a picture of your birth mother. Come over and look through it. You'll get all your answers. So I brought my friend over. He lives right in Philadelphia, near me at the time. And we looked through all the boxes, but none of my stuff was there. To find out that years later, that my files were burned or gotten rid of somehow because he was under investigation. So I left heartbroken that day, but I was still determined to keep going. I hired a private investigator in the United States. For 5 years, I had no luck. I finally found someone in Romania who found my family in 3 weeks. And getting that call, it's almost like a movie in a way, like where I constantly always had the phone near me. I was sleeping with my phone. I was showering with my phone. My phone went everywhere with me. And and this is why it sounds like a movie, because I literally got to the point where I was feeling so like, oh, this isn't going to happen. So I put my phone down. I walked away and I got a call. And it was the lawyer, and to call and tell me that he's like, hey, I found your family. And I just sat there for 2 minutes in silence. He thought I hung up on him, but I was like, no, I'm still here. But what turned out to be what I thought was going to be a fairy tale reunion and her welcoming me in her arms was a rejection. I also found out, I have a younger half brother and a younger half sister that she had with her current husband. We all have different fathers. But I also found out that I am the product of rape.
Oh.
Which is very, I said in my recent post, which is ironic and sad, because a year before I found her, I was sexually assaulted. So it just kind of brought a lot of memories back. But let's just say it was like a continual downward spiral. The more and more I thought finally finding them, I would have answers and I would have that closure and I would feel so good about myself. And, but it didn't really work out the way I wanted to. I did gain a relationship with my maternal grandfather. He was the only one interested in talking to me. He wrote me a letter and I was so surprised, and he was my pen pal for a little while. And until the letters stopped, I found out he passed away. So there is this term in the adoptee community where it's coming out of the fog into your healing journey. And coming out of the fog, at least for me personally, it's not living in denial. It's, you're going to go face reality. You're going to start dealing with these emotions, not shoving them down anymore, because the more you shove those feelings down, the more harm it does.
You relate to that. You relate to
Yes.
the same pain because you understand the same pain. You guys understand the same pain within each other. So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's so great that you created this this organization that hopefully, this foundation that hopefully it grows because there is a lot of parents out there, including my brother and sister-in-law, they for years they tried to have a baby and they just couldn't. And so they decided to adopt a baby. Yeah. They adopted this baby who's my love nephew. I love him. And they adopted him from, the day he was born, basically. Yes. And in some ways, of course, you're so thankful that they were able to do that, because this mother was she was thinking about just having an abortion. And instead of it, they say, don't have an abortion or have the baby. We will keep the baby. We want the baby. So
Yeah.
of course you want to be so grateful for that, but at the same time, you have to validate what that baby is going to go through. And having someone like you and having a foundation like yours is going to give parents of adoptees to kind of understand, okay, yes, my child should be grateful that, we were so thankful that we were able to adopt it. But he or she is still going to feel like she doesn't fit in this world.
Yeah.
He or she is still going to feel that their feelings are not being validated, because they're still going to feel like going through in their mind of why was it given away? Why was I not good enough for my biological mother to keep me?
Right.
I am grateful for my adopted parents, but why was I not? Why was I given away in the first place? So your foundation will give parents all over the world this, tools, how to deal with a child like that, how to validate their feelings,
Yes.
hold them in their arms and go, into this community that could understand exactly how it feels to be adopted. So that's why I'm so grateful for your foundation, and I really, really hope it grows so much. And this is why I wanted to bring you in here, because I love bringing awareness for topics like this, because they're truly, truly important for everybody. Everybody thinks, okay, adoption is great, but yeah, it is great, but there's so much more behind it. When you go deeper into everything, like what an adopted person goes through, they don't really get it.
Well, like I said, there's always that one narration of adoption, and then they think that's the only narration. Like, oh my gosh, this is a gift to us. This is such joy. And yes, it is, but that's not all it is. And that is why every day I try to help bring awareness. I have a team behind me now of advocates who help, me. I started an adoptee support group recently, and I've had a numerous amount of adoptees come on, and it's to hear each person share what they've been through, what they're still going through. Not only do I resonate, but it makes me really sad, because of how much trauma there is in adoption. And I don't want to be the person that I never want to have the message out there like, don't adopt.
No.
I'm not against adoption whatsoever. I just want people to know, like, you have to be educated before you decide to do this. It's not just bringing home a child and that's it. It's not just telling the child they're adopted at whatever age and then you feel like, okay, your job is done. Like, no, your job is just starting with that, because, I'm a firm believer in putting, the minute you tell your child they're adopted at any age, you should put them in therapy.
Right. Because I feel like it would be this world just crumbling down. It's almost like telling a kid, I do believe fantasy is absolutely, absolutely part of childhood. But when you tell a child, like that Santa's not true, all this like, wow, my whole life has been a lie. Yeah. In a mind, especially in the mind of an 8-year-old mind or a 5-year-old mind, that's what they're going to think. My whole life has been a lie.
Absolutely, yeah.
And parents, like, we were not, unless you're a therapist, you will not understand that. You would not. So having someone like you guiding these parents through that, because it is really, it's a journey that you have to go with your child, basically holding your child on by the hand and be like, yes, you're adopted, but this and this and this. And if you feel like this and this and this, it's totally okay. It's totally normal. It's totally validated. Whatever it is that you feel, we're here for you.
Exactly. And, going back to the whole making sure your child goes into therapy after, not just with any therapist, an adoption-informed therapist. Because yes, therapists could also talk about the feelings, the emotions, but a trauma-based or trauma-informed adoption-informed therapist would be a lot helpful for your adopted child, because they have been adopted themselves and they know, so they can really be able to resonate and help that child growing up. I wish I was put into therapy. I didn't ask, but I also didn't know I needed to ask either at 8 years old. But to go back into my healing journey. So yes, I actually started my healing journey within this past year. And it's been, I'm not going to lie, it's been hard. It's been very hard. Just because you heal doesn't mean you still don't have your bad days.
Right.
I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm having a rough day today due to new discoveries in my adoption. And, it is a lifelong journey, and it's a lifelong healing journey, and that's okay. But I mean, compared to where I was a year ago, I personally wouldn't think that I'd be sitting on this couch a year ago. But the fact that I'm here, I started this foundation, I started this community, these support groups, these gatherings, just connections. And then it's in a process of becoming an nonprofit organization all in 1 year. And I just, I don't want to say like it's easy at all, but I just want people to know, you can do it. It can happen. It's not about support, it's about the right support.
Yes, absolutely. People that you're going to relate to. It's like, survivor of abuse, is not going to go through an adoptee group, right? They have to go through a group that has to do with, abuse survivors. So of course, and you having that guidance, being able to be that guidance for them, because you've been there, done that, and you're still going through the journey of this healing. So what a better way to go through a healing journey with somebody who has been there, done that.
Exactly.
And it's still going there. It's still growing there. And
what I love the most, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're totally fine. Yes.
No, what I was saying was, what I love the most about this community is not only am I going through this myself anymore, I'm not just going through it with one person, I'm going through it with an entire group of people.
Exactly.
That no matter what I am going through, I know somebody, because everyone's journey is different. Everyone's trauma is different. Everyone's upbringing is different. So there are not all adoptees can connect on all those levels, but we can connect on some. So there are, just to have that feeling of okay, this person, I know an adoptee who's been through this particular situation. I can reach out to them and we can talk about it. Or somebody else, this just came up, I know someone who just went through this. I can talk to that person about it. So it really is about finding that support.
Absolutely.
One problem with adoptees, how we all personally feel, is we're always second choice. We're never first choice. Even though we are brought up with such love and good intentions, but we weren't first choice to our birth parents. And we weren't first choice to our adoptive parents, because we are adopted in result of someone not being able to,
because they couldn't have a child, not
right. So you know what I mean? Rather than just that, so then that whole term of feeling second choice is an actual how we feel.
Absolutely. I could see how, anyone that has been through that, anyone that has been adopted could have that feeling of not being good enough.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's something that, as an adoptee, is something that you have to work on. It's something that you really have to work on, your confidence and your self-love, self-esteem, build that self-esteem to really feel good enough that no matter what the circumstances was, whether you were adopted or not, or whether you grew it because of a cause of trauma, right, from the very, in your case, especially in your case, that no matter what cause was the reason that you were born and the reason you were given away, no matter what that reason is, you're still good enough. You're still worthy. You're still special. And there's a reason why you're here right now.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you're here right now. To give awareness to the world to bring awareness to the world that it is okay to go through all those feelings. It is okay to feel like shady. Sometimes it is okay to feel like crap. You know, it's okay to not feel okay.
Absolutely.
Because there is people like you that also have been there, done that too, and that are there to give support and love and understanding to other children, other, you know, young adults and adults that are going through that and that have been feeling through their whole life that they're not good enough, that they don't fit. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. And that's where I was going to leave you with, like, just some words of advice for future adoptive parents and adoptive parents now. Just know that you also have to do that work. You can find me on Instagram at babybebrave_. You can find me on Facebook as well at babybebrave. You'll see my lotus flower with my triad symbol, and they'll know it's me. I do also host an IGTV live series every week called Brave Souls, and it shares adoption and inspirational stories.
That's amazing. Thank you so much again for being here.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for bringing
Thank
more
you.
awareness.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NACET. NACET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.